When Daniel was taken from Jerusalem, he was still young enough to remember the sound of prayers rising from the temple and old enough to understand the grief of watching his city fall. The Babylonians came with iron discipline and polished armor, and when they left, they carried captives as trophies of conquest. Daniel walked among them, bound not only by rope, but by the sudden knowledge that his life would now be lived far from the land promised to his people. The road to Babylon was long, and each step took him further from everything familiar: language, customs, worship, and home. Yet, even as the walls of Jerusalem faded from sight, Daniel carried something that could not be taken: his quiet, unshaken trust in God. Babylon was unlike anything Daniel had imagined. Its towers scraped the sky, its gates were carved with images of lions and gods whose names he did not know, and its air buzzed with power and wealth. The palace of King Nebuchadnezzar was filled with scholars, magicians, astrologers, and officials from many conquered nations. Daniel and the other young men selected for service were taught the language and literature of Babylon, trained to think and speak as Babylonians, and even given new names meant to honor foreign gods. To many, these changes felt like erasure, a slow reshaping of identity until nothing remained of who they once were. Daniel understood the danger. He knew that faith did not always disappear in a moment of fear. Sometimes it faded through comfort, compromise, and silence. From the beginning, Daniel resolved that he would not allow his devotion to God to be swallowed by the culture around him. This resolve was tested first in a simple but profound way: food. The king ordered that Daniel and his companions eat from the royal table, food rich and plentiful, wine flowing freely. To refuse such generosity seemed foolish and even insulting, but Daniel knew that accepting it would mean breaking the laws that had guided his people for generations. More than that, it would mean training his heart to depend on the king as favor rather than God as provision. With humility and respect, Daniel asked permission to eat only vegetables and drink water. It was a quiet request, not a rebellion, yet it carried great risk. If he failed, his life and the lives of others could be lost. Days passed, then weeks. While others feasted, Daniel prayed. He ate simply and trusted deeply. When the time of testing ended, Daniel and his friends appeared healthier and stronger than those who had eaten the royal food. The official, astonished, allowed them to continue their chosen diet. In this small victory, Daniel learned something essential. Faithfulness in small things prepared the ground for faithfulness in great ones. God honored Daniel's obedience, not by removing him from Babylon, but by sustaining him within it. As the years passed, Daniel grew in wisdom and understanding. God granted him insight beyond human learning, especially in dreams and visions. This gift would soon be tested when King Nebuchadnezzar was troubled by a dream so disturbing that it robbed him of sleep. The king demanded that his wise men tell him both the dream and its meaning, threatening death if they failed. Fear spread quickly through the palace. No human power could meet such a demand, and even the most confident magicians were silent. When word reached Daniel, he did not panic. He asked for time and gathered his friends to pray. In a foreign land, surrounded by foreign gods, Daniel turned instinctively to the God of his fathers. That night, God revealed the dream and its interpretation to Daniel. When he stood before the king, Daniel made no attempt to glorify himself. He spoke plainly, declaring that no human wisdom could accomplish this, but that there was a God in heaven who revealed mysteries. As Daniel explained the dream, a sweeping vision of kingdoms rising and falling, Nebuchadnezzar listened in awe. The king bowed before Daniel, acknowledging the greatness of Daniel's God. Daniel was promoted to high office, yet he did not forget who he was or whom he served. Power did not replace faith. Instead, it became another place where faith had to be lived out carefully. Despite his position, Daniel remained an outsider. Empires change, and so did rulers. When a new kingdom rose and Darius the Mede took the throne, Daniel's integrity set him apart once again. He served with such honesty and consistency that jealousy grew among other officials. Unable to find fault in his work, they targeted his faith instead. They convinced the king to issue a decree forbidding prayer to anyone except the king himself. It was a clever trap, designed to force Daniel to choose between obedience to God and obedience to the law. Daniel knew the decree as soon as it was signed. He also knew the cost of defiance. Still, he did not hide, nor did he alter his habits to appear compliant. 3 times a day, as he had always done, Daniel opened his windows toward Jerusalem and prayed. His prayers were not loud protests or dramatic displays. They were steady acts of devotion, shaped by years of trust. When the officials saw him praying, they rushed to report him. The law was clear, and even the king, who respected Daniel deeply, could not change it. As Daniel was led to the lion's den, the king spoke words filled with both hope and regret, telling Daniel that his God would deliver him. The stone was rolled into place, sealing Daniel inside. In the darkness, surrounded by the sound of breathing beasts, Daniel did not know how the night would end. Yet fear did not have the final word. Daniel prayed, not demanding rescue, but resting in the same faith that had carried him from Jerusalem to Babylon, from youth to old age. When morning came, the king rushed to the den, calling out anxiously. Daniel answered, his voice calm and alive. God had sent an angel to shut the lions' mouths. Daniel was lifted out, untouched. The miracle echoed through the kingdom, and the king proclaimed that Daniel's God was the living God, enduring forever. Once again, God's faithfulness was displayed not through Daniel's escape from danger, but through his presence within it. In his later years, Daniel received visions that troubled him deeply, visions of future suffering, conflict, and hope beyond destruction. These revelations reminded him that faith was not only about personal survival, but about trusting God's purposes across generations. Daniel fasted, prayed, and wrestled with what he had seen. He did not always understand, but he remained faithful. His life had taught him that faith did not require complete clarity, only complete trust. Daniel lived out his days in a land that was never truly his own. He served kings who did not share his beliefs, walked streets filled with idols, and spoke a language learned in captivity. Yet his heart remained anchored elsewhere. He never returned to Jerusalem, but Jerusalem never left him. His faith shaped his choices, his courage, and his integrity. It was not loud or aggressive, but it was firm, steady, and unyielding. It is about a man who chose faithfulness when compromise would have been easier, prayer when silence would have been safer, and trust when fear would have been understandable. In a foreign land that tried to redefine him, Daniel remained rooted in who he was and whose he was. His life stands as a testament that faith can survive exile, thrive under pressure, and shine brightest in places where it seems least likely to endure.